Hey everyone, I have a question for you. What is the last thing that goes through a bug's mind when it hits your windshield? It's butt. And I know what you're thinking right now, Stephen. This is the quality dad joke type entertainment that we come to Major Spoilers and Critical Hit for week after week, year after year for 15 plus years now. And I just love that you guys are sending out these shows each and every week to us. But I haven't supported you yet, and I want to, but I'm still kind of on the fence about it. What do you got for me? Well, dear listener, how about this? When you become a patron at the $5 a month level, you get an episode of Critical Hit a week ahead of all of the non-patron people. So imagine this. You, being a patron, know what next week's episode is all about, or you've listened to the episode before your non-patron friends, and you're sitting around listening to it, and you can scratch your chin and go, this sounds like a perfect time for a gaggle of gremlins to come and attack the party. And then all of a sudden, a gaggle of gremlins comes and attacks the party, and you can sit back and go, yeah, I saw it coming. And your friends will be amazed. Their minds will be blown. That's just one of the things that you get at the $5 level. You also get character sheets. So if you want to figure out why Quentin works the way he does, you can get access to the Quentin character sheet right now, or any of the other character sheets from all of the other shows that we have done on Critical Hit. So you get character sheets. What about some other things? Well, how about the GM Roundtable? If you are someone who's always marveled at the way that Kevin and Samantha and Brian and Rodrigo have spun their incredible tales that we have been listening to and enjoying on Critical Hit for these last 10 years, and you want to glean some information from them and apply it to your gaming table so you can be a better GM, we also have the GM Roundtable. It is an exclusive show for our patrons, and you can only listen to it when you become a patron at patreon.com/major spoilers. I know you don't want to buy something sight unseen, so stick around after this week's episode, because I'll give you a free episode of the GM Roundtable to check out, so you can see what you get every month over at patreon.com/major spoilers. And then depending on, again, if you want to go $10 a month, $25 a month, $40 a month, heck, we even have a $15,000 a month tier if you are so inclined to get up to that level where we will fly to you, pandemic permitting. We will fly to you and we will record a show live with you in the house. How does that sound? You can find out more at patreon.com/major spoilers. But I know you're still like, I know all of these great things. I need a little something more. Okay, here you go. There's only a couple of weeks left, but from now until the end of April, when you sign up for a yearly membership, something we've just introduced, when you sign up for our yearly membership, you will get 12 months of content, but you're only going to have to pay for 10. That's right. It's 10 months of content that you pay for. We give you 2 months free. It's a 16% discount. Go sign up for the yearly membership at patreon.com/major spoilers. Stick around after this week's show for more content that's exclusive to our patrons, so you can get a little taste of what's to come. And in the meantime, here's this week's episode of Critical Hit. Enjoy. Patreon.com/major spoilers. Welcome to Critical Hit, a Major Spoilers podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and checking us out this week. I told you last time that Kevin was going to have...
Hit?
Yes, on Critical Hit. that Kevin was going to have a surprise for us. Kevin, what is going on?
Well, so this time...
on Critical Hit. Oh.
You guys have a bit of catch-up work to do. You'll be introed to it in a moment in character, so you'll find out soon. But let's just say it's going to be a familiar format for some of the Major Spoilers listeners.
All right, sounds good.
So where we had left off was...
on Critical Hit.
No, you're ruining it. You gotta. There's only the thing. The thing.
Way to go, Matthew.
Shut up. No. So anyway, yeah, where we had left off last time
on Critical Hit.
Critical Hit.
See, that
was that you're on the ship, the Squeaky Clean. It's in orbit. you're fairly certain it was broken into, but you didn't find any evidence of that breaking except for the remains of the person who couldn't be dissolved. So after doing some diagnostics and shooting Squeebo for some reason, you guys are now in orbit, and I believe you were going to make contact with your benefactor, Rain.
Correct. Opening hailing frequencies.
Beep, boop, boop. Yep. You can reach her, and she answers. Huh. You guys got anything?
Yes.
All right.
We have a disturbing piece of video along with, possibly some extra data from Team Elysium.
She double checks. It's like, at least you're using an encrypted channel. Fine. We should be good to talk, at least for a little bit. So what'd you find?
Well, they were definitely sabotaged. And we don't know why or on whose order, but they were sabotaged by one of their own.
Shapeshifter.
Zem. An Astrozoan. Witch Warper. Did she get away?
Yes.
And made
She
sure no
was-
one else did.
Yeah. After securing that everybody, after making sure that nobody else could get away, she got away.
But her corpse was recovered.
Yeah, she
Yes.
made a clone.
All right, well, that's something. I can start hunting her down at least. She's got a head start, but witch warpers leave a trail of unlikely events that's easy to follow. So I can see what I'll find. Good work.
How many teams have you hired?
What do you mean?
Well, they were working for you. And it got them killed.
Yeah. Wondered when you'd find out about that. Knew it was a risk, but Team Elysium was a lot like you. In some ways. Different in others. But they gave up on the mission, started focusing only on winning. I wasn't sure they were ever going to report to me again. When I saw what happened, I knew I was responsible, but it only made me more sure that I was doing the right thing, on the right course. So I got another team together, and that's you.
Well, someone broke onto our ship.
You'll have that.
Do we have any idea who it is that's doing this? I mean, I know that that's literally what we're trying to figure out, but did these guys get any other leads for you?
Well, did you get the computer? That might have had something.
We did. We got as much as we could out of it.
All right. Well, I'll keep digging, but I think that this means that there's someone on the inside at Extreme Productions. Unfortunately, I don't have more details right now, but just to kind of head this off, you guys might be mad at me for not telling you.
Hello, yeah.
Well,
I get it.
all right. Good.
Any other business with the video and the computer core?
Well, we should meet up, and if you guys can't figure out what's going on in the computer core, maybe I can have someone take a look. But we'll meet in person. I've actually got the coordinates for the next leg of Drifters, the space portion. So
Okay.
if you want to meet me, I can send you. I'm out past the outer rim, past Octurne. And due to you lot winning last time, we should be able to scope out some of the course before the race begins.
Nice.
In the meantime, on this, there's a recording that proves a cover up and a betrayal, but not much else. So we're gonna have to keep digging.
Yeah.
Between now and then, though, I've got some work for you to do. Promo work for the studio. Should be in your inboxes now. We're setting up a sphere stream on the Spasm channel. I managed to lock
nice.
down. Yeah. I locked down Calicirate, a mega stand for formally for Team We Love Spiders. So if they like what they see, they'll get a lot of eyes on it. And that's good. If we can get some mega fans, that's going to be good for your brand. We might be able to get better promotions from our sponsors, boosts in the race, things like that.
Okay.
That'd be great. I hear that that if you get real good, that eventually like the weapons makers start sending you free swag just so you show it off. I would love that.
This is how you do it. So I'll remind you that you said you loved it later when you're older. But this is easy. It's you're just going to read the questions that Calicirate submitted from all the questions you guys have been getting on the infosphere, and just take turns. Go around the table, let the reader answer, and then anyone can chime in. And Quentin will record, but we'll need some sort of other camera to catch him too.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope. I don't think so.
All right. Well, then I'll see you in the outer rim. Good work.
See ya.
And she signs off.
Okay. I'll pull up the sheet.
All right. So, Quentin, you're able to set up a pretty decent little recording system. You've already got the holographic room that's, perfect for something like this. And you've all received these infosphere notifications with a list of questions for Team Lizard Brain that's been compiled by Calicirate. Calicirate is spelled like the word Calicere, like in a spider, with the number 8 at the end. And then it looks like they got access to, there's some sort of online community dedicated. Well, there's tons of them dedicated to drifters, but you guys now have your little corner of that world too, after the introduction of Team Lizard Brain. And those of you really familiar with drifters fandom, you know that basically people are the really, really big fans are always looking to get in on the ground floor of like the next big team, because then they get to be the true mega fans that have had like everything from day one.
Then they get to gatekeep other people out.
Yeah, I was watching them before they were cool.
You probably never heard of them.
But no one knows whose that's going to be. So, and obviously every team is trying to pitch themselves as the next big thing.
Okay.
After Quentin gets situated with the lighting, and you guys can be, you can choose how you're seated and presenting, but after that, I think you guys can start reading off the questions that have been submitted to Team Lizard Brain.
Okay. So we all sit down, and I got the first one, right?
Looks like it.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Quentin, you rolling?
And Mark.
Wiggity, what's up, guys? Hecubino coming at ya. Team Lizard Brain, always looking out for my neuronewts. I don't know. We'll come up with a meta name. Anyway, we've got a special dish for you. And the dish is that we're going to dish. You guys sent us questions, and we've got answers for you. Let's check it out, what our fans are asking. Question 1. Why should I root for Team Lizard Brain specifically? Because the last thing you want to do is root for us generally. And here's Vangie coming at you.
So what chores do you do on the ship? Who doesn't pull their weight? Dish! So I like to, I obviously lift anything that's too heavy for the rest of the guys. So like picking up things so that Squeebo can clean under them. Moving crates if we're getting new gear. Because I can pull my weight. And speaking of, Quentin doesn't pull his because he's just a little floating sphere, and he makes this whole thing about like, oh, I've got to shoot you looking good and showing off those muscles, which is fair. I mean, that's fair. But, and then, I also, I've been meaning to try to get you guys to sign up for this, but anyone who wants to wake up at 6 a.m. and do some exercises around the ship, we could, get start the day, getting energized, get some muscle on the rest of you, and then I won't have to lift as much heavy stuff. But obviously, totally optional.
There's a cutaway to Bob just kind of looking at her like, this one's a little weird.
Amu, I think you're next.
What's it like living with your Drifters team? Does anyone particularly annoy you? We love our friends. Although Quentin did try and shoot one of our friends earlier. But we've forgiven him for that. We love our friends. Quentin, it is your turn.
Certainly. Question 4. Who is your celebrity crush? My celebrity crush is the Class M3 Model B9 General Utility Non-Theorizing Environmental Control Robot, Model 1965. It's all about the dome.
Hot.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now over to you, Skritic.
Okay, I have this question here. What scandals have you covered up? What would be the point of me saying? All those murders just a waste? No, I'm not answering that one. Next.
Oh, I guess that's me. Hi, I'm Bob. What are you going to do if you win Drifters? Well, as an android, many of our kind are built and then immediately put into service to pay back the cost that it took to build us from the ground up. And that costs a lot of money. For some people, it takes a long time to earn back that money. But thanks to Drifters, I have an opportunity to make a big payoff and be ever closer to be able to go out on my own and do what I want.
I'll tell you what I'll do when we win Drifters is we're gonna get back in shape during the off season, and we're gonna win Drifters again. Vangie.
Oh yeah, definitely true. So what are the official rules for Team Lizard Brain? Is there a hierarchy? How are the credits split? Well, Hecubino and I are Keem co-captains, so we're at the top of the billing, being the lizard and the brain, obviously. And then below that, honestly, we're still kind of figuring that out. I mean, obviously, Quentin is our producer, camera person, so kind of like an attaché to our, between us and the viewers and the show. But he's part of the team too. And as the rest there, I feel like they're all trying to jockey for who's like team second in co-captaining. Yeah, I think they all put up a really good, strong showing in the first show. We'll see in the next big race who pulls ahead. But if you guys have any opinions on who your favorite members of Team Lizard Brain are, please tell us in the comment section. We won't be offended, except for that we will, very much so, and we will talk about it extensively, and it will make us very sad if you don't like us. But whatever you choose is fine. So yeah, Amu.
We are the medic. Oh, it's our turn. Have you thought about making an alter ego for yourself? But we have multiple egos. Like how Roselle from Team Venture Bandits called herself Tiger Empress when she released her solo album. What's a solo album, Vangie?
It's a music thing, like when you're part of a band and then you go solo. But you want to, she wanted to be like have her own identity separate from her team to show that she was like a real pop star. So this might not have been the best question for you to answer.
We love our friends.
Ooh, I would call myself Dark Bandit of the Skies.
That's a good one.
That is. Why is that? Would you have a sweet costume?
Yes, and people will find out what happens once I finally pay off all my debts.
That sounds ominous. I like it.
If I were to create an alter ego, I believe, as a fan of the classical literature of Shakespeare and the state, I believe I would call myself Barry Sagittarius. Oh, yeah.
I do not get that reference.
That's all right. No one does. The next question is for me. Describe yourself in 3 words. Don't say silly things like species or profession. We want to get to know the real you. The real me is a processing packet some quintillion trilobytes. However, if I were to describe myself in 3 words, they would be spherical, casual hero. Skritic?
All right. Next question. If you could go back in time and change one thing about your life, what would it be? Well, I guess any youngsters out there listening, if you're trying to get off planet or off station and don't have a lot of credits to do so, and looking or happen to catch an unchartered flight, you might want to make sure to let your presence be known before you leave civilized space. Because if the crew is nice enough to drop you off on some rotten planet, at least try to get one that actually has settlements. That's all I'm going to say on that.
That is extremely specific.
Mysterious.
Oh, it's me again. What's your favorite job on the ship and why? Well, my favorite job, of course, is piloting. That's what I was born to do. It's what I love to do. I love to pilot big ships, little ships, air cars, air taxis, ground cars, ground taxis. I like to just drive and pilot and maneuver my way around to make sure that my passengers get there first ahead of the competition. By the way, speaking of our competition, boo, they're bad. What's your favorite job, Quentin?
I have many jobs that I enjoy. I believe my favorite job would be cleaning the dishes.
Ooh, good answer. Skritic, what is your favorite job on the ship and why?
I guess gunnery.
Yeah.
Because I get to shoot the guns.
but not on the ship. We have a new rule about that after that Quentin incident.
Well, not at crew members, at least.
Yes, I agree. Hey, boss, Team Co-Captain Hecubino, what is your favorite job on the ship?
My favorite job on the ship is, of course, supervisor. I like to make sure that all of the cogs are moving along properly. And I get to stand like this, and Hecubino will like put his leg up on like a chair or something.
Nice. Hey, Team Co-Captain Hecubino.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have the next question. That's what I was supposed to do. Read that and say that to you.
Oh, yes, I do. Here. Would you be willing to date a super fan of Team Lizard Brain? Well, I don't know. I think maybe if we actually hit a critical mass of the rowdiest, wackiest, loudest fans out there in the infosphere, I might consider actually pitching a reality show in which you show up and I decide which one of you to date. Yep.
That is an awesome idea. Awesome.
Yep.
I would watch that.
We'll call it the Brain Chalor. I'm still workshopping that. Bang.
So what scares you about drifters the most? I mean, it's really two things. One is that we'll be blown out of the sky in the middle of the race, but I'll still somehow be alive and be just tumbling out into the void of space, trying to desperately to scream while my blood boils and my eyes shrink into shrivel, and then I freeze to death and no one can even hear me. But the second one is just really disappointing the fans. I just want you all to like root for me and to do my absolute best and for you to feel really good about your support of Team Lizard Brain. So, horrible death and disappointment.
If you actually get ejected out of the airlock for just a millisecond, people will be able to hear you scream.
Huh. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but thank you for letting me know.
Bob gives her a thumbs up.
I think the scariest thing is press junkets.
Amu?
The thing you said is pretty scary.
Indeed. I'm also very frightened of Squeebo.
Squeebo is our friend. We would be scared of losing all of our friends.
That's right. And it's that team environment that we try to foster here. All for one and one for all, except, of course, for Vangie and me who are in charge.
Yeah.
Quentin, you got another one?
I do. In order to read this question appropriately, I will need to engage colloquial mode. Colloquial mode engaged. So I had this weird dream with you in it, and we were on the Squeaky Clean being chased by a glowing squid that devoured asteroids, and Squeebo was the butler, but we'd forgotten to set the dates to our engagement, and the InfoSphere promoters were upset because the over budget, and the squid was yelling at us about our color scheme while the ship was being torn apart. So that got me thinking, and my question is this: what's the best way that someone you don't know could propose to you? Please be detailed. Disengaging colloquial mode. Decision trees are an excellent tool for helping you to choose between several courses of action. I recommend drawing a small square on a piece of paper, then drawing lines towards the right for each possible solution, writing the solution along the line. Keep the lines as far apart as possible so that you can expand your thoughts as you go. At the end of each line, you'll consider your results. If the result of taking that particular decision is uncertain, draw a small circle. If the result is a decision you need to make, then draw a square. Squares represent decisions. Circles represent uncertain outcomes. Each new decision will indicate a square on your diagram. Then draw out lines representing the options you could select from that particular level. From the circles, draw lines representing possible outcomes. Again, making a brief note on the line saying what that note means. Keep on doing this until you've drawn out as many of the possible outcomes and decisions as you can, and leading on from your original decision. I could show you an example at this point, but again, visuals are very difficult. Once you've done this, you can review your tree diagram. You should have a good understanding of the range of possible outcomes of your decisions and the possibility of a possible response from me. Skritic.
Huh.
Okay, next question. If you had a secret clone, how would you divide up your life between you? Oh, if there was two of me? Oh, I think we'd both be hard at work being secret and just getting anything we could ever want on the down low. You know what I mean? I guess we'd have to split up our times on sleep watches, alternating who's point man and who's recon. But yeah, I think we would be the most dangerous and deadly team of infiltrators there was.
How do you know you're just not looking in a mirror?
Mirrors generally aren't solid.
Are they not?
Mirrors are generally solid.
Well, your mirrors don't, usually act independently or walk out of the mirror.
I mean,
That is accurate.
Or try to stab you in your sleep because there's a fight over who's the real one, who's the clone.
Oh, now it's getting interesting.
I do like that.
That's why you agreed to split everything 50-50.
Yeah, but at some point, somebody's going to want to be the boss.
Right? Yeah, because eventually someone will be like, but once I start thinking about maybe breaking the deal, that means that my clone has already started thinking about maybe breaking the deal. And what if they've already taken 2 steps beyond and now they're plotting to kill me in my sleep?
And what if you kill your clone? Is that suicide?
No, that would be murder.
Huh. If only there was some kind of decision tree to help us figure out how to deal with our own clone.
Certainly, one can start
We
by
feed them
drawing
to Herman.
lots. Also, this is a difficult question for me in that the Labor Force 553 model that I represent has approximately 600,000 representatives throughout the known galaxy.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on my make and model either.
I feel like this conversation is just pointing out why there's no one that you can trust but yourself and why your own clone would be your best compatriot.
Agreed.
Oh, that's harsh. You can trust your family, whether they're cloned or not.
Not as much as I'd trust me.
I trust you, Skritic.
That's good. You keep doing that.
Let's move on.
Great. Here's a really fascinating one. What channel are we on again?
597.
Okay. There's more than 597 channels on the infosphere, and those are filled with lots of programming. None of them as good as Drifters, but lots of really good programming. Besides Drifters, what other infosphere shows do you watch? Well, when I was back at home driving the taxi cab, my friend Bryn and I would spend every lunchtime at the local eatery, and we would love listening and watching to Flub Shrimcaw. He was hysterical in all of his crazy conspiracies that he would throw out left and right, willy-nilly, trying to get people riled up. Oh, we laughed so hard. That is my favorite show. Anyone else?
My total linear computation speed of 60 trillion operations per second allows for 800 quadrillion bits, or roughly 909 terabits of storage data. Therefore, I watch all of them.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
The one that we are currently on.
Good answer.
Oh.
Go Team Lizard Brain.
So I'm a big fan of Will It Disintegrate? It's a pair of mystics, and they just find things and try to disintegrate them. And spoiler alert, it can almost always be disintegrated, but it is awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of like that other show, Mithril Busters. But that's mostly just a couple of orcs trying to hit mithril chain shirt with progressively heavier ordnance, and it holds up pretty good. There's like 8 episodes so far.
Yeah, also awesome.
Oh, heck,
All right.
I think you have
Looks
the
like
last
we're
question.
winding down. Let's see. What advice do you have for an aspiring drifter? Well, let me get real with you guys for a second. We have put together a really amazing team out of a bunch of weirdos. We won our first race because we have very diverse talents. You have to figure out what you're good at and figure out how that could apply to a drifter's team, right? Instead of being like, oh, I need to get better at shooting or I need to get better at driving. If you're just starting that out and you're not very good to begin with, chances are somebody who is very good at driving already, who has a natural aptitude or say has been programmed to do it, is probably going to beat you out. So figure out what you're good at, figure out what you bring to the table, and then focus on that. Vangi.
Yeah, I mean, I'd second that. You also have to understand that your skills aren't going to come up in every situation. Like, even if you're, really, really good at fighting, which I obviously am, I'm not that great with things like talking to people. And that's why me and Hecubina are such good partners. So, like, find someone whose skills complement you and that you can trust. Find, when the best drifters teams are ones that, like, they always have each other's backs. They almost like can read each other's minds in terms of what they're going to do next. Because that kind of communication is really important when things get hot and chaotic, and you got to be able to adapt to situations as they go. Skritic.
I'd say getting with the right crew is the ultimate key. You got to make sure you have the proper patsies and meat shields in order to really survive in this game. Bob.
Here's the thing. This is my first season of Drifters. I hope it's not the last. I hope we're here for a long, 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 long time. But here's what I've learned so far. You might be asked, because of your fame and your celebrity, to do some errands and do some tasks for other people. Get the money up front. Get that money up front. Also, don't party too hard when you win. But get the money up front. Quentin?
I would believe that the best advice comes in 3 parts. First, a narrow focus brings the best result. Second, nobody ever lends money to a man with a sense of humor. And third, always, never forget to check your references. Amu?
We are confused by that one. But make sure you are good at making friends. We have made very wonderful friends, and we are winning, right? Good friends, good winnings.
All right. Well, you heard it from all of your friends here. Now, how about you show us some friendship and you like the stream, you show it to your friends, you show it to your mama or whatever, look over at Amu, whatever you bought it off of. But yes, let everybody know. They can catch Drifters at the time that you see below. I'm pretty sure I'll later in post. And this is for Vangi, Bob, Skritic, Amu, Quentin, Herman, Squeebo, and Grace. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Vangi's gun. We are Team Lizard Brain. Don't forget to watch us. Keep watching Chilizer 8 the Ocho. And keep it here.
Nice. And so there's a reaction stream because some of this was going live, and you're getting all sorts of comments. And Chilicerate is moderating, and everybody seems super excited. But you're off air now, and right as that you're coming down off the high of being on camera in a social setting for a bunch of potential fans. that is when, boom, all the lights go out. And on the big hollow projector in the room you're in, it flickers for a moment, and then a message starts playing, and the video feed cuts to a giant brain person, a contemplative. In fact, not just any contemplative, but Talos. And it seems pre-recorded. Ah, you fools! It is I, Talos. I know you have been bathing in the pungent slime of regret for failing to acknowledge that I am the superior psychic. But your miserable immersion in mental magic mediocrity is at an end. After my fiendish trap crushes you beneath the weight of my mighty intellectus, you will be trapped in the cold vacuum of space to consider your misdeeds, while I lead Team Brainpower to victory in this season of Drifters. You will be shown the mercy of the unforgiving void as I... Oh, for pituitary's sake, Talos, are you using the cerebral probe on planetary sayings again? You know that's dangerous and not very nice. You have to consider folks' privacy. That's it. I'm cutting you off. Paying those nice homeless friends of yours in full. This is my house, mister. Mother! I'm recording a message. Now is not a good time. Don't come in. I am obligated to now play you the following message. And Talos goes off the screen, and there's a pair of people in what look like military special ops outfits, and one of them says, one's a human, one's a Lashunta. The Lashunta woman says, "You've been sabotagged. I'm Elisandra Sabine." Guy says, "And I'm Clay Taggart. Together we made Sabotag, the first professional sabotage for hire team exclusively dedicated to maintaining that frenemy relationship." How many times have you blown up a recurring person of interest due to being overly aggressive in your booby traps? Surely they would find it first and have to make interesting decisions and attempt remarkable feats to escape your plans. But no, they disappoint, and boom! Just like that, all that time and effort is wasted. We at Sabotag have done the research, and we found that within our target demographic of infosphere influencers and those engaged in life or death struggles on a regular basis for views, likes, or subscribers, that having an ongoing rivalry increases engagement and share of voice within your networks for both parties. It's a win-win so long as you're constantly undercutting each other. But who has the time, not to mention expertise, to execute finely tuned misadventure to befall your rival? It's too easy, you look like a chump. Too hard, kablooey. There they go again. That's where we come in. With our combined 30 years of expertise in industrial espionage, freelance military black ops, and eco-terrorism, we have you handled. Our connections led us to operations anywhere in the Packworld system and beyond. Plus, our unique one-party consent subscription offers the budget-conscious a way to stick it to them and maybe stick them with the bill. That's right, you only have to pay half up front, and the other half is paid by the targets, recipients of this service. Of course, when they pay, we'll be coming back for you, thus ensuring a constant cycle of bickering, banter, bungling, and botching that will leave you all endearingly frustrated while your social network traffic goes off the charts. Sabotag, you're it. And then the ship is completely powerless and adrift in space.
Oh, man.
You are the devil.
That sounds like a perfect time to end this episode. I know it's a little short, but man, you got a mailbag, you got some hijinks, you got that brain in a jar guy. Man,
that's some good advice.
Yeah, what an episode! Oh man, Kevin, thank you so much for pulling out a mailbag, which we hadn't done a mailbag in like years. And now we can go in a few more years without a mailbag, or not. Hey, everybody, you know we have a Discord server, and in our Discord server, you can come and hang out with us. You can come out and hang out with fellow critical hitters, some critters, and you can go and talk with us. You can share your thoughts, reactions to everything that we do. There's a link in the show notes to our Discord server. Go over there, say hi. Tons of cat gifts, tons of people talking about RPGs, tons of other cool things that you need to go and check out for yourself right now at the Major Spoilers Discord. We'll be back next time, and until then, here's hoping all of your dice rolls are critical hits.
This podcast is copyright 2021 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.
Welcome to the GM Roundtable, your monthly roundtable discussion show where we help you become a better game master at the table for your own growth and, more importantly, so your players have fun. Now, we do have this happen every once in a while. You have your regularly planned session has gone completely to pot, and you need to pull something out of your pocket to entertain those players that can make it to the night's session. But what do? Fear not, as our panel of experts and not-so-experts are here to talk you through the creation of an encounter. But wait, we've made this month's GM Roundtable a little bit harder. As your host, I've created a hook for the panelists, and they've had just over a week to come up with a solution to creating the game with the hook. So here is the actual email that I sent out to everyone a week or so ago. The hook is, a baby has been stolen and your party has been hired to rescue the baby. You need to set the encounter for level 5 if your game system of choice uses level systems. You will need to set the game session from beginning to end, justifying your reasonings, throwing in necessary obstacles and monsters that a listener could copy and paste into their next game session if needed. Again, this is a one-session, quote-unquote, dungeon crawl that can be used if you have to quickly come up with something when your regular game night goes to crap, something that you just have in your pocket ready to go. So, tonight we have Rob is here. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
We have Brian.
Hello.
Rodrigo is here.
Hey.
And then lurking over there in the corner is Matthew.
Nerf football.
Nerf football indeed. Okay, so first thing that I want to ask everyone is, what were your first impressions when you found out the hook? What were your first thoughts on this? And Rodrigo, why don't we start with you?
I mean, I thought it was good because it's a good active thing to go retrieve something. Is like a pretty good unit for a role playing game to revolve around. So I figured this is something I can work with.
Yeah. Did you have any major concerns like, oh, how am I going to do this? Make it interesting, or did you have some stuff already starting to bubble up the minute that you saw that?
I did. I started having some thoughts, but then I ended up scrapping them almost immediately.
Okay. That does happen a lot, right?
Yeah.
Brian, what about you? What were your first initial impressions?
Well, I think my first initial concern is, like, what if the heroes lose the encounter?
That's a good question, right?
That could, kind of lead to a dark situation, especially, like, once we get into it, the system that I chose to stat out, I think there's a bit more leeway in that particular system for heroes to not necessarily win every encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I put that into consideration when basically coming up with my plot.
Okay, let's stick a pin in that, because I want to come back around to what happens if a party failed this particular encounter and what people's reaction to that is. Rob, what were your initial thoughts on this?
Thought the hook itself was cool. Was not ready for level 5.
What were you thinking? Something much higher or lower or what?
I was thinking lower. Mostly since it's supposed to be made up on the fly.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking something like level 1, maybe level 2 because most game systems that you're going to if you're having to make characters out of nowhere, level 5 is going to require a lot of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Level 1 or 2 is not going to require anywhere near as many and can be done quicker.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, so my initial thought on this was to make it somewhere between, like you see the little modules that you can buy that are like, this is for characters between levels 3 and 5, or 5 and 9, or whatever that may be. I thought about doing something like that, but I thought it might be a little bit easier to do something a little bit more concrete, because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you're building your encounter and what system you're using, the creatures that you might throw in for a level 5 encounter might be too much, or it might make it a very hard or difficult encounter if you're rolling with level 3 players or level 3 characters.
Well, those modules aren't for players level or characters levels 3 to 5. It's you're going to be going from levels 3 through 5 throughout the module.
Yeah. So I just went ahead and stuck it at 5, and we'll see how everybody dealt with that. What other things popped up in your initial read of that?
I was mostly trying to figure out what the setting was at that point.
Okay.
Just figuring out, say, baby is stolen. Why is the baby stolen? Who stole? Like, where's my plot going?
Mm-hmm.
Then I can figure out what characters are needed from there.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, baby, who's got the baby? What were your original thoughts?
That was my first thought. I agree with Brian, is it could go very dark.
Uh-huh.
And my instinct at that first moment was we're definitely going to have to lean into some black humor. We're going to have to lean into maybe a little, Coen Brothers in the tone that I'm looking for, because you can't just do that and have there be, no consequences. I feel like it could go badly very easily.
Sure. So what are some consequences then that we could throw out that might not make it as dark? Baby has been stolen or kidnapped. There could be a ransom demand. So even if your party fails, then the people that came to hire you may end up just paying the ransom, and then your group may lose status in the community or guild or whatever thing that you set up. That would be one way that you could deal with failure. What's another way you could deal with failure, Rodrigo? The baby dies, I guess. I mean, that's another thing. Sacrifice to the Dark Lord Orcus.
I mean, it depends why the baby was taken. I mean, you could very well write an adventure where once the party gets there, they realize that actually the people who took them are the baby's parents, and the people who hired you were bad, and now you have to deal with that, right?
That's funny.
Stop giving away my ending.
That's funny. No, it's funny because for those of you who read Rick and Morty and are familiar with the Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons story that Jim Zub created, that was like a year or two ago. That was actually the hook, where they went into the world and apparently a baby was stolen or something. And then they got to go and rescue the baby. And they're like, no, this is our baby. Those people that hired you were the actual villains. So that's kind of funny that you brought that up, Rodrigo. Brian, what is a solution that you came up with? And without spoiling your system or the encounter, how do you deal with a party failure?
For the most part, basically what my plan would be is, the baby's gone, but it's not dead. That it provides further opportunity for future story elements.
Okay.
And, the baby could be coming back through some timey-wimey shenanigans as a villain.
Okay. That's interesting. Turns out to be a bad person later on. So there are definitely some alternatives that you could go with in this case. So I guess then the next thing is, what were some of the challenges that you were thinking of as you were starting to build your encounter, Matthew?
Challenges.
Yeah, what were some things that were like, here's what I need to think about, here's what I'm not sure about, those kinds of things.
Well, my first thought process was, how, what, where, when. When you get to a point where you're trying to conceptualize something, I had some very nebulous ideas, and I still do have some very nebulous ideas. They're still very nebulous, but I feel like my big question was, how do I keep it within the scope? How do I make sure that this doesn't grow out of whatever time frame or whatever, expectation that we have for a one-night session or a one-time session, or even a short session that may take more than one gameplay unit? How do we make sure that it has an endpoint, a closing mark, so that you can go, okay, that's that. We could revisit this later, but we don't have to, and we can just say, job well done, everybody, enjoy a milk bone in a commie-free world.
Yeah, and of course, if this is just a one-shot, I guess the the idea of failure is that, well, your party failed. And, if it is just that one shot and you're not revisiting this world or this group or this party ever again, it's just a failure. Now, I know nobody likes to lose a game, but that is something that you might have to contend with. Right, Rodrigo, or no? Should your players always win?
No, not necessarily. You probably should have some contingencies to failure or just make it difficult for them to fail. There are circumstances that your party can endure without failing at the mission, right? So it's like no matter what, they succeed on the mission, but maybe they accrue further penalties as they go if they keep, not coming out on top of encounters or situations.
Okay. All right. So everyone's been kind of dancing around the system that they were wanting to use that, so let's just knock this out of the way. Rob, what system did you decide that you wanted to go with?
Overall, mostly due to procrastination on my part, I ended up going with the 4th edition because it's the system that I'm most intimately familiar with at this point.
Okay. All right. Brian, what about you?
I went with Sentinel Comics RPG.
And why did you go with that? I know we've played that game before. And again, our listeners haven't heard that game yet, but we played an early beta of that many years ago that, again, is just being pocketed until we're ready to release that. But why did you go with Sentinel's RPG?
For the most part, because I was already in the middle of reading the system. And secondly, since it's not one that is yet out on the wide market, then I knew that I wouldn't have to worry too much about stepping on anyone else's toes on their chosen system, and I could do something unique.
Okay. And Rodrigo?
I went with Fate Accelerated.
And why Fate Accelerated?
Fate Accelerated is very simple, and it tends to favor narrative over mechanics. So it helped to keep the mechanics simple, right? The thing that's interesting about a Fate Accelerated game is not necessarily what a villain's stats are, because they're almost certainly going to be a +4 to this and a -2 to that. It's basically the narrative you bring to that bonus and penalty.
Okay. Now, again, I like Fate. I think Fate is a fine system, but I have seen people comment in our Twitter feed, in our Discord, and other places that they just really, really, really hate the Fate system. They love what we did with Modern City and the story and the characters we were building there. They just really, 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 really hate the Fate system.
I mean, you're going to find that with almost any system.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's stuff out there that some people really love and some people really hate. That's true of, I mean, that's true of any system that I can think of.
Yeah. So, I think Fate is fine. When you said Fate Accelerated, last week or something, that's what you were going to do, I was like, cool, great. I love Fate Accelerated. It's probably, I think it is my favorite system of all the systems that we've played and all of the systems that are piling up on my game shelf over there. So just some things to keep in mind. Matthew, what was your initial thought for what system you wanted to use?
Initially, my thought was Paranoia, but then I realized that I haven't played Paranoia since the 90s. And the version with which I was most familiar apparently was published in 1987. And the latest version of it that I could find is like 12 years old and doesn't seem to have any updates for it. So
there's
that's kind
one
of
that
thing.
Came out within the last couple of years.
What's it
there's
called?
A card-based one I haven't played it myself, but I want to get a hold of it.
It's fun.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find it. The last one that I could find was the 25th anniversary edition. And I'm like, okay, well.
So I'm not familiar with Paranoia. Fill me in a little bit on that one, Matthew.
Paranoia, and the way we always played it was pretty much wrong. But Paranoia basically had the black humor kind of baked in. So imagine you live in a vaguely dystopian world that's not the future, but also is the future. And it's very much going to be, if you're familiar with the year 2020, it's going to be now. and you have a lot of the humor built into it. And of course, you are usually given an assignment by a faceless AI or a faceless corporation or a faceless computer center that tells you this is what you need to do. This is how you're going to do it. And of course, everyone has abilities, but everyone also has some serious limitations. And you'll get, for instance, many times you'll get something that cannot work. Someone will give you an order or give you a directive that simply isn't going to work, cannot, will not happen. And how the players respond to that and how they work around that is part of the game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
okay.
it's kind of like in the X-Files, if they were working with Rick Decker in Blade Runner, but also just wandering around, in the year 2020.
Okay. All right. So, Rob, how about we start with you? And let's walk through the process of what you were creating for this encounter where the hook is a baby has been stolen and your party's been hired to rescue that baby.
So I'm going to set this in a more Eberron-y type setting. Doesn't necessarily have to be Eberron, but like the noir backdrop of the cities of Eberron works a little better for what I'm going with, as the party is going to be part of a detective/security agency, depending on which bent your players are more geared towards,
mm-hmm.
Who are being hired by the most affluent family in the city to track down their child because the baby has been taken, and they don't want the rest of the city to know about this, on top of obviously needing to find their child. So level 5, we can do, if you're practiced with a 4th character creation, you can do character creation relatively simply. Otherwise, I would just go with the some of the core classes from the original PHB and call it good, and send out for starting with an investigation right away.
So let me stop you right there and ask. You're letting your players create their characters, and because originally you were saying you were hoping that it was a lower level because it's very easy to create the character, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking that as part of the setup as they come in and say, hey, everybody roll up a character this level and go? And why didn't you go with prepared characters? That's just a curious question, not an accusation.
Because of the prompt, your regular planned session has gone to pot, and you need to pull something out of your pocket to entertain those players that can make tonight's session.
Yeah.
So depending on when things hit the fan, I might not have time to create characters for everybody. But if this is a regular session, for this scenario, if we're starting at level 5, these people have at least played this a few times, and so everybody should be able to hop onto character creation relatively quickly.
Okay.
And I would be confident enough to help anybody who does struggle with character creation relatively quickly.
Sure. Now, and again, I will say this, as we've talked in previous sessions, I'm a big fan of Hero Lab. I know Fantasy Grounds has it. I'm pretty sure that Roll20 is starting to build it in with the character sheets. With Hero Lab, it actually walks you through what you need to do and what's missing in your character creation, all the way from, rolling your initial dice and assigning those to your traits, all the way to here's what you need to pick for this character and everything. So I'm not saying that having your players come in and everybody roll up a character is a bad thing, because there are tools out there that you can do that very quickly. I just wanted to find out why you had opted not to do something pre-gen.
Yeah, mostly because the prompt suggested that pre-gen wasn't quite going to be what we were going with.
Okay.
Otherwise, pre-genning characters would be fine. I'd suggest I wouldn't pre-gen the characters myself. I would not have pre-gen the characters myself for this. I would have laid out a few suggestions, as the DM is going to know their players better and will know what type of characters to pre-gen for their different players.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something that I come up with is not going to be suitable for most players because I'm me.
Right.
And my brain works on an entirely different.
No, that's cool. I just wanted to ask that question.
So Our investigation is going to lead us to a bar. The initial encounter is going to be a skills challenge. That's what's going to get us to the bar. Pass or fail, we're at the bar getting the information. Fail, it's a fight. Pass, we're actually going to find the information, find out that one of the other families of the city, a rival family, is who actually kidnapped the baby.
Oh, those people.
Exactly, those people. So our next bit is trying to figure out either recovering from the bar fight and possibly avoiding the authorities if necessary, or figuring out how to get into the family's mansion. Mansion? Yeah, mansion's the right word.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to get into the family's mansion. We can go for some hard role play here if we can actually manage to bluff our way into the place. But eventually I'm expecting to end up having to deal with some guards that are getting roughed up, or because heightened security is in there. They've heard other families are having problems, so they want to make sure that they're protecting their own. Make sure that anything at their place isn't going to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the night's going to be kind of a heist caper, going back and forth between either having to deal with guards or actually managing to get the baby out without having to fight. But I figure another fight is going to end up happening eventually. Let's see.
Do you have?
We're getting into there.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just reorganizing my thoughts. Go ahead and ask my question.
I was wondering, do you have some quote unquote monsters that you kind of plan for each of these fights, or for each of these encounters that the party is going to, for lack of a better word, encounter?
Right. So for the bar, I'd be using soldiers, the soldier type,
mm-hmm.
not like specifically soldiers in the MM, but soldier is one of the enemy archetypes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Soldier or warrior, whatever the beefier one is. It's been a while since I've actually looked at an MM. And have those guys be at the party's level or possibly a level lower. The bar fight's supposed to be an easy thing. Like, they're not supposed to have troubles with this. It's just supposed to, if they manage to fail the skills challenge of obtaining the information without getting into a fight, they're just supposed to have this easy mop up, where the only thing that could go wrong is a crit in the wrong direction. Then we're going to be using a lot of this soldier archetype, as I imagine most of the guards are going to be there, or most of the guards at the mansion are going to also be these soldiers if we have to fight the guards. For the finale, I'm going to probably use one of my favored rewards for a skills challenge as we're going through the mansion. If we succeed at the skills challenge, the party gets to set up the map.
Oh, nice. Okay. And tell us how that works and how you would do that.
So as you get deeper into the mansion, you realize that the baby was stolen for not just rivalry purposes, but the family is trying to they're not trying to sacrifice the baby because they don't want to do that drastic, but they're trying to use the baby for a ritual. And the DM can kind of gauge how their players would react to what level of, are we taking this baby over to how they want to present the actual ritual. But essentially the family's trying to get more power for themselves by letting this wizard use the letting the evil wizard use the baby for his own nefarious purposes. If you succeed at the challenge, I'm just going to give a big open room of probably about a 15 by 15 square with an altar at the back.
Okay.
Where the wizard and the baby are. You can set up the room. The players are going to set up the room as a religious temple, or not necessarily like Like, we need this to have some sort of ritualistic significance, but it's up to you guys how to place pillars or columns, that sort of thing. If they fail, then I get to do that and make it harder for them. Then we're going to have the wizard's going to be an artillery type, probably something focused on abilities that are going to be able to hammer down any ranged characters that the players decide to build. And we're going to have another half dozen soldiers of a level or two higher than what the party is, with the wizard being a elite of two or 3 levels high, 3 levels higher.
Okay, and then they defeat the wizard.
They manage to defeat the wizard, have the baby, and get to try and sneak out of the castle or sneak out of the mansion, or just kind of go run through the mansion guns blazing.
Okay.
Depending on where we are for time.
Okay.
Either a skills challenge or a, hey, congrats, you did it.
All right. Very cool. What did everybody think? First, let's Rodrigo, thoughts on Rob's encounter.
I like it. It's definitely a builder's session. Like if you have stuff handy, it really gives you a lot of options to add and take away things, rather than necessarily telling you exactly what has to happen at any given point.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think though, for someone that, let me whip this out of my pocket. I think that maybe something, and this is something that certainly, Rob, you can put this in your pocket and you can start to polish it and develop it and expand upon it, right? So that you can then just drop in the monster stats and the wizard stats and those other stats fairly quickly, in your spare time, so that when you do end up with that moment of, hey, it's game night and nobody has a plan, you can say, well, I can DM a game. Here you go, everybody. I think that makes it a little bit easier. People in the Discord, what are your thoughts on Rob's setup? I got to tell you, his setup is not too far out of line what I think a lot of people would create with this kind of a situation.
I would agree, and I do like the leaving open the character interpretation or some sort of character control for your players. Because even when you come into something that is a pre-generated adventure, it's nice to have at least a little bit of input to something, to have something that, even if you're playing for an evening, that you've had your thumbprint on, something that that you can work with your style or have fun with in your play style.
And I think that's something that when we get to Rodrigo does point out in his session that, hey, if you want to change things, go right ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So
I guess the only thing I would tweak about Rob's is that I wouldn't hinge any fights on succeeding or failing a skill challenge. I would say the fights still happen, and then just give them an option, or not to plan to have a fight there if succeed or fail. I think that last one where you do a skill challenge and it lets you determine aspects of the fight, that could work. That works very well. Say in the bar fight, they could, for example, gain more information after the fight because they succeeded at the skills challenge.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, let's take a look at your session and what you have developed for our listeners.
Yeah, basically, so as I mentioned earlier, I'm going with the Sentinel Comics role-playing game. It doesn't utilize levels, so to speak. So generally, I just developed this with in mind of doing basically 5 PCs, and general thought is that they would be basically attracted to this house that seemed to have been attacked by some monstrous creatures. They arrive on the scene, discover that a little baby child has been stolen, and they have to try to get it back. This would lead into an investigation scene where they'd have to try to make some overcome rolls to potentially add some more twist to their turns. either during this investigation or basically later during a villainous monologue, they'd probably find out that this child was basically born under some auspicious stars and is destined to be some sort of great magical wizard, and it was stolen by some nefarious magic types to try to take to their dark demon lord. And ultimately they find a portal that this dark wizard person is trying to make an escape at, which would largely lead to the primary encounter. So I basically did set this up as a pretty difficult encounter for a group of heroes, largely thinking that the central goal is not going to be to defeat all the villains and minions and everything. So basically the way I would plan it out is the scene tracker would have 2 green spaces, 3 yellow, and 3 red, which generally gives it the length of a standard scene, but slightly more heavily rated into the red zone to kind of give it a little bit more of that escalated feel. There would be 5 challenge elements, 1 villain, group of 5 minions of 10-sided difficulty, and I would give them a +1 to hinder because for the most part they are just trying to get in the way of heroes, make it more difficult for them to just run in there, snatch the baby, and run back out. I would throw in 3 D12 lieutenants who get +2 defense to physical damage, but heroes can work around that by doing any kind of energy or non-physical damage to them. Just largely to, again, be kind of a roadblock in their way and to really be a tough challenge there. The villain built using a disruptive approach and an inhibitor archetype, just to, again, be throwing out all kinds of hindrances and just really getting in the way, making it harder for the heroes to roll the overcomes that they need. And generally my plan would be that they had to do a couple of overcomes to reach the villain, starting at 2, but it could be more as he does his own other overcome actions to try to gain a larger lead or less, depending on any of their sneaky tricks. Probably an overcome action to grab the baby and equal overcomes to get back out of the portal. And like I say, this is set up as a fairly difficult challenge. So even though predominantly they just need to make a certain number of overcome actions, depending on how many the villain gets in, it could be possible that they do lose. And pretty much I was thinking that the remainder of the session would largely be fallout from that, either determining like what they have to do to go back to get the child if the villain does get away through this portal. Again, as I mentioned earlier, maybe the child shows back as a Dark Lord later on to torment the heroes for their failure. Or if they do get the baby, this could also lead into future adventures where they have to try to shore up for this minion or anyone else that's once this fated magic child, and how to deal with that aspect.
So Sentinels of the Multiverse, I'm going to guess that a lot of our listeners are not familiar with that system. It is relatively new, probably with only the last 2 years, or maybe it's 3 years now. God,
I'm not sure when that starter kit came out, but
time really does fly. But in the base system that we have played previously, we get to play one of the heroes from the Sentinels of the Multiverse card game system. There's also in the released version a character creation guide. So I'm going to go back to the characters again, like I did with Rob. Are you going to let them pick one of the Heroes of the Multiverse characters? Do I get to play Legacy? Do I get to play, Aqualad? Do I get to play Ra? Or are you going to let them come to the table with their own creation? Or are you going to create original characters for your players to play?
I probably wouldn't create characters. Again, going if this is a one shot where plans fell through and I'm just getting something ramped up to go real quick. I mean, there's certainly plenty of pre-generated characters, both in that core rulebook and the various free previews that they put out. So, I mean, they can certainly choose any of the Freedom 5, or if they, have their own characters, they can roll in with that. Pretty much all the characters come in on an easy, even keel. So yeah, there's no issue in just basically grabbing one and going, and maybe throwing their own interpretation upon the set of stats and running into the game from there.
I forget, does Sentinels have a leveling system?
No, it really doesn't. About the only thing that it has even close to a level is like you can get trades as you go through adventures that you can spend to basically as narrative currency to add elements to a scene, or as like a one-shot boost to or bump to a single roll for each trade that your character has in their history.
Okay. All right. And so you, again, kind of like Rob, have a general outline. I think with Sentinels of the Multiverse, because it is very much theater of the mind, although I suppose you could do a tactical system if you wanted with that. But because it is very much theater of the mind, there's not a lot of, it's up to the GM to do a lot of the descriptions of what these rooms are like and those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of feel like with us having played the starter kit and having actually read the rules, even though they don't explicitly utilize zones within the system, I feel like it really kind of needs it, and so many
or some other way to show distance,
locations, distance.
Yeah, since like some characters are extremely or should be extremely mobile, and some shouldn't be.
Yes.
I've found that to be a problem with a lot of systems that espouse theater of the mind, is that while they're saying it's theater of the mind, they still put ranges on things that don't quite let pure theater of the mind work.
Well, that's the opposite issue, right? It's it's like, do you have like tight cones and cubes and stuff in theater of the mind? Is like, well, then you need a grid.
Yeah. So I'm curious for the people in the Discord server, how many of you have played Sentinels of the Multiverse RPG? I know I saw one person get very excited when Brian said Sentinels. Is this sound like a fairly good game that you could just sit down and run, given Brian's overall outline for you? D. Harshman says, I think in Sentinels, ranges are things like nearby.
They close to. But then there's always that question of like, what is nearby? Like, there's certain characters like Tachyon who can hit all nearby enemies. So you kind of have to have a pretty good idea of what characters and creatures are where.
But I think though that can.
This character is explicitly not nearby.
Right.
Yeah.
That person is far. You got to bring out your Grover. Far.
Like I say, for pretty much any games I plan on utilizing like note cards and dice, and actually having areas of like, okay, he's over here. Like table space, there's actually going to be utilized.
Yeah, and I think that again, that's one thing that I see with theater of the mind type games that I've either listened to or watched, is that you do kind of have to say, well, that person is just out of your range, or that person is close enough to you where you can reach out and grab them. So those are some things that I've seen people do in that situation. Sure. D. Harshman also says that Brian's encounters seem really, really clear. So I think, Brian, that this is something that somebody could just take your outline, flavor it with their own information, either create the characters themselves, use a pre-gen Fantastic Four, the Freedom 5, or create their own pretty quickly. And I think character creation in Sentinels is pretty straightforward, right?
I would say not so much.
Oh, really?
It's actually kind of a weirdly. I feel like it is once you have experience, but.
Judging from the complexity of any given character, I would be very surprised if it was a straightforward affair.
It is like a weirdly, like there's actually quite a few moving parts, and
definitely.
When picking powers, like each power has to, or picking abilities, I should say, like each of them having to use a separate power die and things like that. Just weird little gotchas you got to keep in mind, and then you can retcon to change that around. There's actually a bit of complexity to it.
Okay, all right. Good job, Brian. All right, let us now jump over to Rodrigo and Fate Accelerated. Now, I'm going to give everyone a heads up here. Rodrigo has created some rather large documents. I will be sharing those with you when I post this episode on Patreon. So Rodrigo is being gracious enough to have basically a prepackaged game for you, all ready to go. I will share those documents with you when this show goes up on Patreon. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, Rodrigo, please take us into your Fate Accelerated game.
Okay. Should I just go through it?
I mean, go through it as much as you want, as detailed as you want. I mean, you've got... so one of the things, and the reason why I was asking the previous two about pre-generated characters is because that is one of the things that you have done here, Rodrigo, is you have pre-generated characters.
That is correct. And the reason for that is because I wanted to tailor characters specifically to what was going to happen in the game, as opposed to somebody showing up with, their character and none of their stunts really clicking onto anything, right? So this way, there are things that are going to be phasing in and out of relevance. But here we go. So this one-shot is called Operation Offspring. This is a one-shot adventure for 5 players and a game master for Fate Accelerated Edition. In it, the players take the role of a group of well-dressed mercenaries known as the Tailor's Choice Club. Their goal is to rescue a baby from the clutches of a shadowy corporation. When the game begins, the players will have already infiltrated the company's headquarters and will be preparing for a daring escape with the baby. Info for players and GMs. The Tailor's Choice Club is a mercenary organization that provides agents for dangerous tasks. Some are full-time members, others are contracted for individual operations. Regardless, the organization provides each operative with an excellent, comfortable, and very cool suit to wear on missions. These suits often have gadgets, enchantments, or other improvements to make missions easier. The mission at hand, known as Operation Offspring, involves rescuing a baby that was kidnapped by a shadowy corporation known as B10 Logical. The operatives chosen for this mission are as follows. Contractor 1, formerly a witch of the 7-hexagon pentacle, Daga uses strange magics to provide some firepower in case things get difficult. Contractor 2, when the Kaiju Syndicate was finally sealed away by the Radio Rangers, most of them retired, but Shin Radio Ranger 6 has joined the Tailor's Choice Club, adding otherworldly powers to the club's arsenal. Full-timer 1, scientist, scholar, genius, dog. Dr. Doberman provides leadership and logistics to any assigned cell of the Tailor's Choice Club. Full-timer 2. A machine originally created to track cattle, Tex, that's TEX-TECHS, is now a hard-shooting, hard-riding, very sentient mechanical buckaroo. Tex was stolen away from the company that originated their technology, but has chosen to stay with the club full-time. And probationary member, a strange mutant, Lizard Kid, was recruited by the Tailor's Choice Club for their infiltration skills. They are the newest recruit and still a little green. As the game session starts, the Tailor's Choice Club members have infiltrated the headquarters of B10 Logical and have secured the baby. Now they make their way to the garage to secure a means of escape. So everybody will have this available to them to pick a character. Should I go through the characters?
I think you've kind of given a brief overview. Okay. How about you jump into, it looked like, and again, you sent this to me this afternoon, and I was trying to set up a new computer so that when we have another member join Critical Hit, we'll be ready to go. It seemed like Lizard Kid was probably one of the more interesting characters that you had. Could you kind of go over his stats and his stunts and all those things?
Sure. 1 second. I navigated away.
Sorry.
From that. No, that's okay.
I mean, unless there's one that you thought was maybe more interesting, but just as I was scanning through, I was like, they're all your babies and you love them all.
Yes. Okay, so here's the stats for Lizard Kid. So their sheet has everything that you just heard, plus, so Lizard Kid. A strange mutant, Lizard Kid was recruited by the Tailor's Choice Club for their infiltration skills. They are the newest recruit and still little green. Appearance, Lizard Kid is a mutant with human and lizard features. What that looks like is exactly up to you. Remember that Lizard Kid was given a fancy suit by the Tailor's Choice Club, so that needs to be described as well. Aspects, high concept, teenage mutant. You are a young, genetically altered half-person, half-lizard. Trouble, unstable genetics. Every once in a while, new mutations manifest in your body. Looks like you're not done changing. an additional aspect, mysterious origin. You are a virtual unknown in the world. This makes it hard to leverage reputation, but makes it easy to go undetected. Approaches are careful +1, clever +2, flashy +0, forceful +1, quick +2, and sneaky +3. Stunts are fly eater on the wall. You have a great ability to move undetected due to your strange mutations, +2 to sneakily overcome an obstacle as long as the obstacle involves observation or is itself being observed, manned, or patrolled. And next one, this is new. Your genetics are unstable, and new temporary mutations develop all the time, +2 to cleverly create an advantage on yourself, such as extra lizard eyes or reactive camouflage. Fast heal, you can immediately heal grievous injuries, but you can't do it indefinitely. Once per session, when you would tick your 3 stress box, leave it unticked instead. And then a suit ability. Every character has a suit ability as one of their stunts. Didactic weave. Your suit, given to you by the Taylor's Choice Club, is a training suit for new members. It helps with reactions and builds muscle memory. So after a combat or action scene, create a personal aspect based on how you did, such as learned to not get in the way or took a lot of hard knocks. This aspect can be tagged as normal and lasts until the end of the session.
Okay.
So, yeah, all of the other characters have similar stunts and things like that, and things that sort of click in and out of the situations.
Okay. Now, something that I noticed that's different about your encounter or your session encounter, I don't know what we want to call it, encounter, one shot, is that you don't start with the group has come in and hired you, right? You kind of start.
Nope.
Halfway
You've already
through
been hired. You've already gotten the baby. Now you have to get out with the baby.
Yep.
And you've added a little twist to that as well.
That's right. So I have a little blurb about, you're the game master. You get to do what you want. Before the session, have the players read the info and have them figure out what they want to play and have them think of characters' descriptions. Some notes on specific gameplay, some notes on whether to add or remove aspects. But when the session starts, so make sure our players know that they start with 4 fate points. When the session starts, ask them who is holding the baby. The baby is a very young child, a toddler or younger. The description of the child is up to you, gender, ethnicity, etc. The baby will start crying as soon as any loud noises or sudden movements happen. So basically the entirety of this game. In game, the baby is represented by the following card. The baby. Aspects, crying loudly, don't jostle the baby. Approach modifiers, careful +2, clever +0, flashy +2, forceful -2, quick -2, sneaky -2. So anytime a player is hit by an attack or ties while defending against an attack, they pass the baby to the player character who goes after them in initiative order.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, a character may pass the baby to another character who must agree to receive the baby by spending their action for the turn. Basically for example, if your character has careful +3 and forceful +2, when holding the baby, their stats become careful +5 and forceful +0. The baby is helpful sometimes, a huge hindrance sometimes. You're also subject to the baby's aspects. So the game master, if you are trying to do an awesome kickflip or something, the game master can tag "Don't jostle the baby" and reduce your pool or your bonus. All of that stuff applies. And yes, basically, when you get hit, it represents not just you taking a hit, but also losing the baby, and then whoever's next in initiative catches the baby. And so hopefully I actually have a bit here about making sure that you attack the person with the baby often so that the baby changes hands often. Because A, that's fun, B, the bad guys would be trying to get the baby, and C, it sucks if your aspects or if your approaches are particularly non-synergistic with the baby. It sucks to be stuck with the baby.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that as a very good, different way to approach using the fate system to, to allow the GM to impose some penalties, I guess, or some difficulties. I shouldn't say penalties is a bad word. Difficulties is the good word.
And when you think of so basically having the baby can be good or bad, passing the baby can be good or bad, and you don't always, actually most of the time you won't have control over it. Also later on you'll see that the order in which players chose to describe themselves is also their initiative order. So you also don't get to pick what initiative order you go in, because you don't know yet that that's how initiative is going to be done. So after you settle the who has the baby, we get into basically starting into description.
Yeah. And again, Rodrigo has done a remarkable job of doing all the stuff that the GM needs to read, giving you GM notes, everything that's in there. I will be providing you all of these documents when this file goes live on Patreon. So for those of you who are listening live, you're going to have to wait a little while. For those of you who are listening right now, it's probably a file attachment right there on the Patreon post that you can get in there and download. Rodrigo, how about instead of reading through all of that stuff, which is really good stuff?
I'll paraphrase it.
Yeah.
So it starts with some description of the area. This is set in Neon City, which is a city that's full of neon and it's dark and gritty and stuff. Then we go to a building that doesn't have any neon on it for about a split second before it explodes. And then somebody rides out in a Jeep. So the player that has the baby is in the Jeep. So you ask the player to describe their character, ask them questions, flesh out details, ask them where they're keeping the baby, how they're holding it or whatever. And then you ask who else is in this vehicle. So some other player isn't, football carry that baby, that's fine. Heisman baby. Somebody else is in the car with them. Whoever volunteers describes their character, what they're doing. And then the remaining players get to decide if they're also in the car, if they like busting out riding a motorcycle. One of the characters can summon a motorcycle, so it makes sense that they would be in a motorcycle. So kind of what they want to do. And then there's a quick note here of no like helicopters or mechs, because we don't want to out razzle dazzle the characters themselves on their first appearance. We'll get to that stuff later. So then the characters make it onto the highway, and just when they think they are getting away scot-free, a group of bikers joins on, and we find out that they are running security for B10 Logical. The riders are the Skullo Babes, who are like this neon skull gang of bikers. And then we get into the first combat scene. This combat this combat / action scene, the point of the combat is not to defeat all of the bikers, but to last 5 turns. And I'll tell you this right now, I picked 5 turns, but 5 turns might be a very long time depending on how it goes. So you can shorten that to 4 turns, and I think that would be okay. And basically, once you survive the 5 turns, you get to the city limits and leave the enemies behind. Again, this is kind of a solution for what happens if the characters lose. Well, in order for the characters to lose, every single character would have to get completely wiped out, which is actually kind of hard to do in Fate. So it's very difficult. The characters already have the baby. The baby doesn't get taken away in any way. I have things about like not stopping the action, not causing them to slow down or whatever. So the bikers are nonstop. So when you beat one on that biker's next initiative, another one takes its spot. So you basically stack the players in initiative order depending on when they describe themselves, and then you stick in a Skullo Babe at after every player. So player 1, Skullo Babe 1, player 2, Skullo Babe 2, and so on and so forth. Yes, infinite bikers. For 5 turns. So when you beat one, like if you manage to hit one, they have 1 stress box and they immediately fold. So if you beat Skullo Babe 3 on Skullabave 3's next turn, a new one comes on, but they don't attack. They're basically summoning sick. So you, like, clever players or players that get lucky can basically get it so that only 1 or 2 enemies are attacking at a time if they're paying attention to the initiative order and attacking correctly. But when you throw in complications with the baby and other things that might happen, just because of rolls, most of the time they're going to be fielding a lot of hits, and these guys hit pretty hard. So I also have a thing here about the game master making sure that aspects are being created to mitigate some of these attacks. Ending the battle. When the 5th turn of combat ends, the battle ends. You may have the Skullabaves turn around, unwilling to leave the city's edge, or you may have whatever the last move of the players made cause a much larger commotion than expected, knocking out the swarm of bikers behind them. So at the end of this, you leave the city. You ask the players who has the coordinates for the rendezvous location. When they head over there, they realize that something's wrong. There's a fancy car that's on fire, and they see this huge flying battle platform fly over them and blow up that car again. And they realize that this battle platform is the Draco Sys Battle Wyvern Mark III. And then it gets into Tex and Daga have experience with the Battle Wyvern Mark I. So you kind of stop the action and ask them to describe the adventure they had in which they first encountered the Mark I. There are questions that you can ask as the game master to sort of get them through it if the players are having trouble or they're kind of meandering too much. Afterwards, both Tex and Daga get an aspect. So as examples I have here, if they failed the mission, because it doesn't matter if they succeeded or failed that mission, Daga may have the aspect looking for payback against Draco Sys, and Tex may have big old chip on my shoulder. Then they get to come up with an aspect for the Battle Wyvern Mark III, which I think I have here as like Mark IV, but like improperly. So there you go. There's a fix. It's okay if they come up with an aspect that's strictly bad. That's kind of the point. So some aspects here, as an example: faulty cooling system, unnecessary amount of missiles, rushed in research and development. Once aspects have been chosen, you read some more, and then you hear a voice come from it. It turns out that the voice is from Dr. Nopalito von Saguaro, who is a high-ranking member of Draco Sys Criminal Arm. And as it turns out, Dr. Doberman and Shin Radio Ranger 6 have had an adventure that deals with them. So you have those two go through and explain what all happened. Afterwards, they each get an aspect. So, for example, say, assuming that they succeeded, Dr. Doberman may have scientific superiority as an aspect, and Shin Radio Ranger 6 may have warm friendship feelings towards Dr. Doberman. And then you ask the players to come up with those two players to come up with an aspect for Von Saguaro. Some examples include really very full of himself, intolerant of others' differences, and too smart for his own good. So, but whatever they want to do. Once aspects have been chosen, the villain continues monologuing, says that it was part of his plan for you to get the baby away from B10 Logical, and that the baby has unlimited mutagenic potential, and that Lizard Kid is basically a prototype of the baby. And then Lizard Kid gets to come up with an aspect for themselves and for the baby. So sample aspects can be, I must protect my baby sibling, or mutagenic might awakened by the truth. And then for the baby, some samples are more important than we knew, or latent mutant powers. And then once all settled, you get into the second fight of the night. This is much more straightforward, and basically the biggest aspect of this fight, I guess lowercase aspect of this fight, is that anytime you attack the Battle Wyvern Mark III, you have to overcome an obstacle. So basically, you have to overcome an obstacle and not attack until your first turn. I have a whole sequence of things here of ways to do it, to mitigate it. Basically, players can, if they come up with it, or you can tell them to, they can overcome obstacles for each other. So basically, you can assign a striker and a person that's just going to get them up there. And essentially, it's just that the Battle Wyvern is like basically high up in the air and very difficult to hit. So you're going to have your characters hopefully jumping up there, launching each other, going off of natural stone ramps in their motorcycle, whatever. Like they have to figure out a way to get up there, and you really shouldn't fight them on it. There's some scene aspects here. There were also some scene aspects in the previous fight, but I skipped over them. The Battle Wyvern Mark III has the following aspects: Flying Death Machine, nearly indestructible, driven by a madman, plus whatever aspects you came up with, both of which apply. And on its turn, it makes 2 attacks. It basically attacks 2 characters that haven't overcome its air superiority, and then it attacks 2 characters who have. So depending on where the party is at any given point, it may have some like very successful and fruitful attacks, and it may just not be able to attack at all with one of its attacks. It has 4 stress boxes, so it's a little bit harder. Again, play that by ear. I think the fact that you need to basically spend a turn to then spend a turn attacking it might prolong this fight too much. So consider giving it 3 instead. But if you check your watch and you still have plenty of night left, go ahead and give it the 4. Once the battle is over, then basically this thing blows up. Turns out that the Von Saguaro inside was a robot, and kind of leaves you with some ominous words, and that's kind of the end of the session.
Nice. Very good, Rodrigo. This is really detailed. I honestly feel this is a rip and run setup. You've got all the characters there. It's very good. What are your thoughts there, Rob?
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I always enjoy when Rodrigo throws characters out there, as he's definitely tailored a couple of these, at least to some of us. Thus, with Matthew calling dibs on Shin Radio Ranger 6 immediately.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who would you want to get, Rob?
It's Lizard Kid.
I knew that.
Like, I really strongly looked at Dr. Doberman for a moment when I heard when you read the first 4 words of his description, but then it's like, nah, Lizard Kid. Lizard Kid is 100%. But I like the adding aspects or having the flashbacks happen so we can add aspects in the middle of the fight, utilizing the fate system.
Yeah, I think I like that as well because, one of the things that we talked about when we've played Fate in the past is that this is a group-driven storytelling, and so forcing everyone around the table to contribute to the story and contribute to their backstories and have that play a part in the game, I think is really good and really important to include.
Yeah.
Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts is how can we get this in front of Fred Hicks and try to get Rodrigo a job at Evil Hat?
Well, I mean, I do have their email of many of the people that are on the team, so maybe.
I mean, if nothing else, this is now like I have now put together an actual adventure that I can show people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Good job on that, Rodrigo. Let's now go to Matthew and see what Matthew has done this week.
So I feel like when it comes to following Rodrigo, first of all, I hate you. Well, not you specifically.
Honestly, Matthew, you were going to come up last on this regardless. It was up to, remember how Rodrigo said in his encounter, it's how everybody called where they wanted to go, depended the initiative order. And before we did this show, I asked everybody who wants to go first. And while Rob was like, I want to go first. And then Brian said second. So you just fell into that initiative order.
Well, here's the thing, and this is very important. What happened with my game? What had happened was I accidentally created my game with the most dangerous monster of all, and that monster is decision paralysis. Because getting into the point of the game, the bit of the game that I was really interested in, the meta part for me was the idea of you're being sent to defend this baby. So I came up with this excellent, what I thought was an excellent idea. And this idea was that we weren't recruited so much as, because one of the reasons I wanted to use paranoia was that some sort of evil organization or artificial intelligence has literally kidnapped the player characters and forced them to find the baby. Primarily, the baby is not a literal baby, but we don't find that out until the end. And because we're playing paranoia, the characters can be very close to kind of a realistic archetype. You don't necessarily have the cool Radio Ranger 6 in what I was working towards. But here's the deal. You remember how I said that playing paranoia kind of reminded me of the year 2020? Oh, ha, ha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not funny. I literally killed myself. I killed my concept and I just couldn't do it. And I came to a point where once I had that together and I knew kind of where I was going, I was literally racked with anxiety.
Yeah,
could not put it together.
Is it okay if I read the tweet that you sent to me on, was it Sunday night, Monday night?
Please.
Matthew says, I'm stuck. I don't think I'm going to be able to have the materials for Wednesday, and it's massively stressing me out. Every time I've tried to create anything, I've just overcome with anxiety at this point. It's not going to happen.
Yep.
And I totally know where you're coming from, Matthew. So, this is not the part of the show where we're dumping on Matthew. Oh, you didn't do the assignment. How could you do this? Right. Because I think that the performance anxiety, which is essentially what it is when you become a GM, is kind of a big deal.
It is.
And I think that may be a topic that we're going to talk about in a future upcoming Game Masters Roundtable or GM Roundtable.
I'll point out that I kind of killed myself making this thing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And also in the process running 2 sessions of Critical Hit.
Yeah.
I really did too much work.
Yes.
And really wouldn't recommend it.
Definitely not do it. But see, here's the thing. And this is why Rodrigo gets the A++ with a few extra credit points on top of that in this assignment, is because you went above and beyond what I actually expected everyone to do.
Sure.
To be honest, everybody gets an A. Even Matthew gets an A for effort. But I mean, I was really expecting everyone to come to this session with essentially what Rob and Brian had done. Here's a general outline. Here's the monsters that you're going to encounter. Here's the general setup. And we can have some discussions about that and start talking. So by no means was I expecting someone to come up with what you did, Rodrigo.
Right. And this, by the way, is what it's like having me in school. You will.
Man, I wish I had 50 of you then.
Well, you don't, because it's a completely binary thing. Either I will do exactly enough to squeak by on the assignment or blow it out of the water, and there's no in between.
Yeah, so
likely because I'm blowing some other assignment out of the water for a different professor.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. And I don't know, Matthew, what your thought process was in where you were getting hung up, and what was causing you the greatest anxiety. But I don't know, this was over a year and a half ago or something. I came across the recommendations for the 5-room dungeon. And I know I've mentioned it previously on the GM Roundtable. And the 5-room dungeon is really kind of a good outline of, here are 5 different encounters or 5 different things that you can set up that you can do very quickly, regardless of the system that you're in. The person who set this up, who built it, I've put a link there in the Discord server, basically has given you prompts of, well, how are they going to encounter? Why are they here? What's going on in this situation? And basically says, here's how you can set it up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 physical rooms. It could be, as Rodrigo was saying, one room is the street fight. Another room is while they're waiting around for this. A third room is when the air platform attacks. That's what he's talking about with rooms. Or it could be a legitimate room in a dungeon or a dungeon crawl. And I don't know, Matthew, if you're familiar with this system or not, or if you've ever had a chance to look at this before.
No, but looking at it, I think it goes along with the way that I've created things in the past. And again, as with so many of these things, for me, a lot of game mastering is kind of intuitive, which is great if your instincts are on, and not so much when things fall apart. So, I feel like intuitively speaking, I have pretty good instincts, but there's also the fact that what I was trying to create actually made me more anxious about aspects of life outside of the game itself, because there's a particular aspect of my job that is very, very stressful right now. And the more I tried to focus on this, the more it made it hard to do my day job.
Did you ever think about flipping back to maybe a different system like 4th edition or AD&D?
I looked into it, but it's also one of those things where I didn't want to do 4th edition because, frankly, I don't want to play 4th edition because I don't feel like I have enough mastery of the system to be in command of a game. And I don't feel like I could create something effectively within that. And the game systems that I am familiar with as a game creator, as a GM, are 20 years old. Yeah, I joke about my retired DM status, but it's truly what it is. My retirement has been intentional, but it's also been something where if I'm going to leap into a new game, I thought about doing Fate Accelerated, and then I thought, yeah, can I get what I want out of Fate Accelerated? And I wasn't sure if I could. And again, that led me to heck, what if we all do Fate Accelerated? And, just kind of spinning out into infinity. So it came to a point where it was like, I'm doing too many things. I'm focusing on too many things. And so many of them are external to the actual story, platform, game, whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm like, I got to step back from this. And I stepped back from this. And I spoke to Rodrigo first. And I said, Rodrigo, what do you got? Now, in retrospect, you might think that was an error, but here is what it is. This is exactly what it is. I have been gaming with collaborating with Rodrigo for 9 years now.
Like almost 10 years now.
And I knew that whatever he came up with, oh my God, Kansas just came out of my face. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Whatever it is that Rodrigo created was likely, and I love you, Brian. I love you, Rob, and don't take this as any type of knock on you. It's going to be the gold standard of what we put together here. I expected that Rodrigo would have something awesome, that Sam would have something awesome, and that Brian and Rob and I would have something, and people would be like, yeah, that Rodrigo thing sure was great. And so I felt like if I could get a feel for what Rodrigo was at, I might figure out where I can do my C-, can you start my orange kind of feel for it. And Rodrigo was straight with me. He's like, look, I have a 10-page document for the GMs, 5-page documents for the players. I have this broken down. I have this broken down. I have this broken down. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. And he literally says to me, you can do this or don't, whatever. And I'm like, the or don't became my answer, because really, there are times when if you're in a gaming group and somebody says, hey, we need to pull something out of our hats in the last moment, sometimes you're not going to have anything. And this is the week that I didn't have anything.
Yeah, no, and that's understandable. And I do want to, and that's why I wanted, Matthew was like, maybe I should just bow to this week's episode or this month's show. And I was like, no, I think you coming on and talking about the anxiety that you were having and why ultimately you didn't deliver is something that I think everyone needs to be aware of, and that everyone needs to understand that, that we're all human, right? We all have these things that are going to plague us, that are going to hurt us, that are going to haunt us. It could be performance anxiety. It could be, when you're not living up to the expectations of others, like trying to compare yourself to Rodrigo all the time. Right. Those kinds of things can kind of play into this.
Griffin syndrome is what's that's called.
Is that what it's called?
That's what I call it.
Okay. Yeah, I think all of us especially if you're someone who is like, into role-playing games, you have to like reckon with that, with that thing of like, you shouldn't kill yourself over role-playing games. If you are the only game master and you just don't have the time, then you have to stop, or at least pause for a while. You have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you get burnt out, and then you can't run, you can't play, and you can't do anything. So you have to take some time, and sometimes you just have to be like, I can't do it this week, guys. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, we're going to play Scrabble this week.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's legitimate. I feel like there are times when that's going to happen, and I really do regret that it happened here, and I really regret that it happened to me. But it's also, it's worth. I don't mean that lightly either. It's not like it should have been Rob's situation. It's more of a situation where to
be fair, Matthew, I was in the same situation.
I know.
Rob's got that modern mastery though, so he had that advantage.
And that's the thing, the things that I have been doing this week, and I realized this this afternoon when I was doing 10 things on my Twitter, follow me at Mighty King Cobra. It was something where I can do that because I have already put together my format. I have almost a template in my brain of this is how this goes. I know how this goes. I can do it reflexively. The same with, the process, the physical process of buying a comic and reading a review and putting my review together. That's something I can do. The physical process of sitting down, pressing answer, talking to people with my nice voice. You guys have never heard my nice voice, by the way. But when I use my nice voice and I take those calls, that process is something that I can do almost by rote. It's something that I have down. And this is flexing muscles that I haven't flexed in 20 years. And that's say they're rusty.
And that's why I asked if you were familiar with the 5-room dungeon system or recommendation, because it is really a template that you can just kind of plug things into. So Chris asked, did Stephen pick a system? And Harshman said, I think he just assigned the hook. Well, after Matthew contacted me, I was like, I'm sure Sam and Rodrigo and everybody will come together, and we'll still have, a lot of stuff to share, and Matthew will come in and talk about these parts. But I was like, well, okay, let me just see how well the 5-room dungeon works as far as a template. So I went ahead and created one. And again, this is more along the lines of what Rob has, just an outline. I created mine yesterday afternoon between shuttling kids between karate practice and podcasts. And again, I'm going to have to apologize to everybody. I actually set mine for level 3 characters because I had forgotten.
You broke your own rules.
No, I had forgotten the email that I had sent out because I was like, okay, well, let me think this. But actually, it works for level 5 because I had this so that it could scale for 3, 4, and 5. So if you did this with level 3 characters, 4 to 5 players, this would be a medium to hard session. If you did it with level 5, it would be medium to easy in parts. But still difficult. So the setup obviously is that a baby has been taken. This is taking place, and here I'm going to really drive everyone up the wall intentionally. A wealthy family in the Stormwind kingdom has had their baby stolen by the evil Murlocs. Right? And so because guilds happen to be a big thing in 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons and all these other things, people have to go about and team up and go do things. And I wanted to approach this and there's a whole section in the 5th edition. I don't remember if this was in 4th edition or not, but there's a big section in the Dungeon Master's guidebook, and I think the Player's guidebook as well, about guilds and the point of guilds and doing business as guilds. So this wealthy family just happens to be a patron of the party's guild. Unfortunately, all the other members of your guild are out on assignment, doing other things. All these higher levels that would have taken on this for this very wealthy patron to the guild are not there. And so the only people that are left is your party of 5th levels.
None of our qualified instructors are here, but we got just a few minutes.
Yeah. And so your party decides to take up this adventure, number one, because these are wealthy patrons. Number two, because if you succeed, maybe it'll raise your status among everyone else in the guild and you'll be able to move up a couple of steps on the ladder. So the party accepts to go do this. Again, I didn't have time to go and create characters. I would prefer to create characters like this. But
you'd prefer to have pre-gen.
I would prefer to have pre-gen characters in this, just so people can have that option and they can pick what they want. And then I can, as you said earlier, Rodrigo, craft the characters to the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Although
it helps with that motivation, right? So you're like, maybe they are like, oh no, a baby, and that motivates them, and maybe they're like, aha, this will raise my status here, and that motivates them, right? So you can have different characters with different motivations who all want to do the same thing,
right? So if the party wants to spend any amount of time going through the city of Stormwind, looking for anything that would help them breathe underwater, to swim faster, swim speed is a big deal. Holding your breath is kind of a big deal in 5th edition. It should be on the character sheet what everyone's swim speed is. They get to the edge of the lake, they go in. They swim up to the Murloc stronghold, and sure enough, just outside the gates are 2 Murlocs standing guard. And in this case, I'm using the Colinth from the Ghosts of the Salt Marsh volume. This is on page 239 of Ghosts of the Salt Marsh. These are level challenge 1-2, I believe. They are only 100 XP a piece, but there's 2 of them, and so your party needs to go and fight them. After about the second round of combat, the party just so happened to show up at a shift change. And so 3 more of these Colinths, or Murlocs as we're skinning them here, show up, and so the battle becomes 5 against 5, or 4 against 5, or however many people are in the party against 5. The good thing is, when the party defeats this group, they know that they're going to have a couple of hours before anyone needs to come back around to check the gates. So they've got time. It's not like an alarm system is going off. The problem is the gates are locked. And the gates are locked with a color key code. And so I thought maybe something that might be a little bit different is to incorporate a real puzzle or a real puzzle mechanic into this game. And there were a couple of them that I thought. The first one that I thought was one of those sliding puzzles, where you have like a 3x3 box and you're sliding these things around to form the pattern. Are you guys familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Like, I know what you mean.
And so I thought about that, and there are systems where you can just say, hey, create a 3x3 box puzzle, and then you could give that to the players to figure it out how to solve that puzzle and open up the gate. But then I thought, Mastermind is a much more interesting game of trying to figure out a code. And there is a multiplayer Mastermind game online that you get to set up the color code, and then you get to share that link with your players or whoever you want. And I think there are 8 tries to unlock the code, and it's a 5-color code. And so everyone's played the Mastermind game, correct?
Yeah.
It's an old game. You probably you haven't.
But
so
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah. So you've got these little beads that you get to set up, and then you send that link to your friend or to the party or whoever that's going to do this challenge. Now, you only get 8 chances or 10 chances to do this. What happens if you fail? Well, depends on how you want to handle it. You could have an alarm go off right away and alert the entire compound, and you're suddenly flooded with Murlocs. That could be one thing that you could do. Probably not what I would do, but the system says cool down 5 minutes, right? So what are you going to do for those 5 minutes? You can either try to figure out the puzzle a little bit more based on where you were at, or this is one thing that I know a lot of other people do in their games, but I know we have not done that a lot, and any time that we've done it, it's always hurt us, and that is search the bodies. If you search the bodies, and this is a way that you can help the players completely not fail, if you search the bodies, you will find on one of them a row of beads with the colors that they need to unlock the code. Now, they may not be in the right order, but that'll give the party a second chance to go through that same game and try to win it with the correct code combination, if you think that they're in that dire need of help. Knowing all of you guys, I would imagine you could get this figured out in the first try. Not in the first attempt, but in the first group of 10 tries. Yeah.
No, we could do it in the first attempt because we're awesome.
So the good thing is, if your party has spent a lot of time figuring out how they're going to breathe underwater, they only had to hold their breath for a little bit, because once you get past the gates, it's breathable atmosphere. Murlocs can breathe in the water, or as the colynths are in Dungeons and Dragons, they can breathe both on land and underwater. So they have an air breathing system. So I've done my second room, which was the puzzle. The third room is a skills challenge, because now the party needs to go and find where is the baby. And so in this skills challenge, you could have obviously some sneaking capabilities. You could have trigger trap alarms. You could have darts shoot out of walls. You could have something fall on somebody. If you were to decide to have a trap like a booby trap, where someone steps on a stone, if you don't have a rogue that's doing a trap check. I don't know what it is called in 5th edition.
Trap check.
2d6 worth of damage. You could have magic wards that someone has to use an Arcana check to get through. I went with, on this one, a complexity of 3, according to 5th edition, so that would be 8 successes. And for whatever reason, in 4th edition, they had it as 4 failures, but I would just keep it as 3 and 3 and use the Lord Kensington rules of skills challenges for this. So that is your third room. The fourth room, you find the nursery, and guess what? There are 6 of these Murlocs/colynths in there. These look to be nurses. But why do you need 6 of them for 1 baby? Turns out there are 4 babies in there. So you need to go in, defeat those colynths, the nurse Murlocs, and then the party will have to decide: are they only going to take the 1 baby, or are they going to take all 4 babies? You don't know why the babies were taken. You don't know why the babies were stolen. There was no ransom note. You also can't tell which baby is which. All babies look alike. So do you take a baby and hope that you pick the right baby? That's a tough one. Of course, I'm hoping the party decides to take all 4. Be nice. They exit out of the nursery and boom, run right into the final challenge, the boss fight, where the party literally bumps into 2 colynth sergeants, which are the next step up from the colynths. And they will have to battle those 2. If they're level 3, this is very hard. If they're level 5, this is simply medium to hard difficulty. And then after they fight those, they escape. The question is, did they remember to bring enough breathing apparatus or magic spells so all 4 of the babies can breathe as they go back up to the surface? A little bit of a dilemma. Does somebody hope that they can hold their breath long enough to reach the surface while they give their breathing apparatus or spell to the babies? What's going to happen there? That's up to the party. So that is something using that 5-room dungeon technique that I was able to use to plug those in. Now, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
How do we know that all 4 of the babies don't belong to the colynths?
Well, you don't.
Are they human babies?
They are all human babies.
Oh. Yeah, I was like, I feel like we're rescuing 1 baby and kidnapping 3.
Maybe.
It's true. So we're actually 3 times as bad as the guys we've come to defeat.
Maybe.
No, it's good as long as there is a hard out that the players have to discover at the end, because basically the last moments of the game are likely what people are going to remember, and if all you remember is like, well, we ran out of resources and we can't get these babies out, so I guess we'll just leave them here and escape.
No. There's definitely outs if they look around, so that all 4 babies can escape. The interesting thing is, when they do get back to Stormwind, they discover that there are 3 other families that have had their babies also taken, but those other families went to other guilds. So not only does the party get good standing with their patron for their guild and raise themselves up in the guild status, they now have also potentially taken patrons away from other guilds because you have returned their babies as well.
Oh, snap. When you said that there were 4 Murloc nurses, you were like, why? I was like, oh man, it's going to turn out that it's not a human baby. It's like
I mean, that's
It's like
something. I mean, you could
It's
certainly
like an
change it to
ogre
that.
baby.
Yeah.
And it's
It's a
huge.
Leviathan.
Well, you know, we did talk
baby.
about that.
that'd be great.
We did talk about that at the beginning, right? About you can change that, or the Rick and Morty situation where maybe you are kidnapping somebody else's baby. Maybe this family really wanted a Murloc baby to do some horrible ritual on. Maybe they need them for their horns or something. So you know, there's different ways that you could manipulate that. So that was my quick attempt at outlining a 5-room dungeon using the 5th edition and just 4 books that I had on hand: the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, and the Ghost of Salt Marsh. And then plus for the skills challenges, I had to go back and re-reference something. There was something about short rests that I needed to go back and reference in the Dungeon Master's Guide from 4th edition. So that was that. What did you guys think? Any other comments or thoughts, and from the chat as well?
I mean, it sounds fun. You know, it's like Murlocs are cool. I like that you really set it up to be like this ongoing underwater thing, and then once you're past the first water obstacle, that's done. That's good because underwater rules, if the game even has any, tend to be a pain in the butt.
They really are a pain, and that's why I was like, oh man, as soon as they get into this compound, they're going to have to breathe. And, you know, there's a couple of other things you could do with this. Depending on how long, you could actually figure out how long does it take them to do the fight. Subtract that from a 1-hour oxygen supply that they have. How long does it take them to figure out the mastermind game to unlock the door? Subtract that from their total oxygen amount. You could do that as well. But yeah, rules for underwater combat are really difficult because unless you're doing a shooting thing like an arrow or a spear, there are penalties to like swinging a sword underwater. Yeah. And your movement is slowed underwater. So it was like, I really don't like that, but I really like this idea of it being underwater and the party needing to go underwater, potentially sacrificing themselves from lack of oxygen.
Yeah, you can always say is like, okay, well, these guys need to keep like their skin like hydrated. So you can incorporate water into every room without it being an underwater encounter, right?
Yep.
In one room, the water's up to like one room is an underwater thing. Another room, water's up to your ankles, so it's mostly just difficult terrain. In another room, maybe the puzzle or whatever has to do with water. Instead of it, you know, being a code, you have to like open taps or something like that.
Yep.
Right.
So a couple of, and the reason why I put in the colynth specifically, you can go in and read those on their monster descriptions in the Ghosts of Salt Marsh. The lower level ones just have a trident where they can do a melee or a ranged weapon attack, right? They also can deal an extra 2d6 worth of damage if they attack a creature within 5 feet of it. The sergeants, the final big boss monsters, they have a multi-attack where they make 2 attacks per round with their tridents. So basically 4 attacks happen on their turn. They also carry hooked nets, which if they attack you, you have to cut your way out or figure out some other way of getting out to free yourself. You have to do some slashing damage and hit an AC of 12 in order to get out of that net. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And those are the guys they call the aqua goblins, right?
Yes, in the book, I believe they're listed as evil goblins or something like that.
Yeah, they're either goblins or they're like goblins or hobgoblins or something.
Yeah, let me flip back over to the page. They are listed as goblinoids.
Yeah.
Lawful evil. So
lawful evil. And I'll tell you right now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans will back me on this. Water levels are the worst.
Oh yeah.
I love the water level.
All right, everybody.
You do.
All right, everybody. That is the GM Roundtable for this month. We went a little bit longer, but hopefully this gave you some ideas. We had a hook, and everybody brought a different approach to it. I mean, obviously, it was everybody had to go rescue a baby, right? Or get the kidnapped baby. But everyone approached it very differently. Everyone used a very different system. The reason why I went 5th edition is because Wizards of the Coast have been sending me every single 5th edition book since it started.
Sure.
And I figured none of you were going to do 5th edition. So I figured I would take a stab at that. So we did get a variety of different systems that you guys can take this hook and say, oh, so it is very easily adaptable. It doesn't have to work just for high fantasy. It doesn't have to work for Starfinder. It can really be adaptable to any system that you want, and we've given you guides in order to do that. So hopefully everyone in the Discord server enjoyed this. I hope you did. If you're listening after the live event, well, you missed out on a lot of stuff. There was some stuff in the middle that had to be completely cut out that we just couldn't share with you.
Yeah, it was too sneaky.
It was too much, I think.
Rodrigo said F.
This is the reason why you want to join us live when we do this once a month, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Wednesday nights. Make sure that you have connected your Patreon account. Somewhere there should be a link where you can access the Major Spoilers VIP calendar, in which you can see when we're doing live shows like the GM Roundtable and the discussions that go along with that. So for everyone on the panel, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, here's hoping that all your dice rolls are critical hits.
This podcast is copyright 2019 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.